Hey, hello. Alright, so last night I was suddenly started thinking about this. This is how it goes, my thought process. The thoughts suddenly just pop into my head. As I'm sure it goes the same with many of you also. Yeah, and I was thinking about why so many marriages nowadays fall apart. And yeah, then I started thinking, elaborating on that further, and this is what I have come up with. This is my interpretation, anyway. It might be, well, I don't think it's wrong, anyway. I think it's just simply that the main reason is that too many people go into a marriage, especially, I mean, if it's their first marriage and if they are young, like in their 20s. Many people do get married either in their 20s or in their early 30s, and because they want to have a family. And it is a little difficult, to raise children when you are already past, like late 30s or 40s. You feel you don't have as much energy and weight. So as when you are in your 20s or early 30s anyway. So yeah, they go into this with unrealistic expectations, I think, because it's all that fairy tale and glamour of a wedding. The wedding is, of course, the start of it all. And it just seems to promise more than it can deliver ultimately. All this glitz and glam and, the splendor, the fairy tale stuff that weddings are usually, look like anyway. And yeah, so it just kind of gives unrealistic expectations to many, I think. Also because they are in love, they feel strongly for their spouse, and they think this is, yeah, now, of course, now my life starts for real. And yeah, they are right in that, but not in the way that they think. Yeah, reality, this is when the real life starts, but also in a, well, not always in a good way, definitely. This is when reality kicks in, for most people, just a few weeks after the wedding. They suddenly realize, this is this isn't what I really expected. Now I have to, cook and clean and, yeah, eventually also take care of kids and I think especially for women who are still in many countries anyway, traditionally, still that tradition is being upheld, I believe, in many countries where the wife is the main one responsible for these chores, cooking and cleaning and, you know, taking care of well, taking care of kids, yeah, generally, even though the husband today, these days, is also expected to, you know, pull his pull his weight and his share of the weight. And however, there's another reason, right? But it's all connected. The husband not always, pulling his share of the weight or not doing his share of the chores. It's more like, yeah, I'm sorry, honey, I'm busy at work. I'm not gonna make it. You gotta take the kids by yourself to wherever they are going, or deal with them. I got an important meeting. all that, like, yeah, my career is more important than yours, in other words. And there's another very important reason why marriages split up, because sometimes it also happens the other way, that the wife is more like the one who works and yet expects the husband to be more with the kids. Sorry, honey, I got an important stuff coming up. You gotta do it by yourself. And so yeah, there's there, this happens a lot. I believe, there aren't that many marriages where both people are, equally unselfish, and prepared to take you know, their share of the burden anyway, to shoulder their share of the burden for all this stuff, the house, taking care of their home and their children. If they don't have children, of course, it can be a little different. Then there's a little less responsibility. And actually, those marriages, I think you'll find, are probably the ones that most often do work, because of that. There's no that. There's no burden. That burden isn't there, right? The kids, the children burden isn't present. And yeah, though I hate to be like this, very negative, I know children are very important for many people. However, they do kind of put an enormous strain on the marriage, definitely. And especially if the parents don't agree on certain important aspects of their upbringing, that's another reason. That's, I guess, number three. Yeah, parents not agreeing on how their kids shall be raised. Maybe one of them wants a more religious approach to it. The other one said, "Nah, what? I don't want that. We don't need. They don't need it. Let them decide themselves." Which I personally think that second approach I would have preferred. That I think it's a more sound one. I don't think it's healthy to burden a child very early with all this stuff. The concept of religion, which it cannot even fathom. You know, I mean, yeah, it cannot really quite grasp this concept anyway. So why burn it so early with it? So yeah, it's children who are raised in a religious way. They very often, when they grow up, they kind of have this phase where they experience some sort of a crisis or confusion, about their you know religious identity. They start to question things, and yeah, it is then, I think, in their puberty or around that time, that they should actually, if you intend to, well, they should actually find out by themselves, if they really want to be religious or not, because it's too early when they're 5, 6 years old. Of course, it's too early, and yeah, I think that why parents usually uh, bring up their children in a religious way is because they want them to have these values, like these good things, good values, because they feel that religion is a good way to raise your child, to teach it what's good and what's wrong. But I feel, however, yeah, it can be good, but yeah, I feel it can also be a burden. All right, so I'm gonna leave it at that. This is not This is not some what I intended to talk about here, but anyway, yeah, I had to go there also. So yeah, that is a major reason I believe, and also, even especially if the parents are of different religions. Like for instance, my parents were of different religions, but none of them were actually very religious. So that helped make it easier, and I was raised without religion, really, in an atheist environment. And also because at that time it wasn't even very accepted or very popular anyway to be very religious in the 80s socialist Bosnia and Yugoslavia. So yeah, I was raised that way. um, so yeah, when parents are, but in other kind of scenarios, when it is let's say democratic country, and both parents are different background, religious and sometimes even ethnic or racial, that can also cause a little, like problems, because very often one each parent, or at least one of them, will want their side to prevail there, to be more dominant in his child's eyes. And yeah, like very often the father will want also especially his son to feel more like what he is, like ethnically and religiously and all that. So, and that can also cause problems because the mother now feels it is my child as well. Why should it be, feel more that than what I am? And yeah, it is not fair. It is not fair, definitely. Because of my different, religious backgrounds of my parents, and in Bosnia it is also unfortunately so that if you have a different religious background, it is almost as if you have a different national or ethnic background, even though it's not really that for in reality, but it is has been made so because of the long history, the politics. It's complicated. So let's I'm gonna simplify it. All right, my father was originally, well, from a Muslim family, so they are called Bosniaks down there now anyway. And my mother was from an Orthodox Christian family, and down there in Bosnia they are called the Serbs. So so yeah, I was always, I mean, I didn't even find out about it until I was like 13 or something, what my parents really were called in that term, But yeah, I was always like, yeah, I wasn't sure really. I didn't really want to choose a side, but because of the war and again, digressing, but I can't help it. Because of the war and the fact that yeah, I mean, what happened, I actually experienced being like bombarded, under bombardment by a Serb army, the Serb forces. I definitely didn't want to choose that side. I didn't want to lean towards that side, definitely. So you might say, yeah, I mean, for a long time I did kind of feel more like closer to the Bosniak side, but I knew I wasn't really. I can't be a real Bosnian because I'm only half that, and yeah. So there you go. Just giving you something. I mean, that's from my own example, my own, and. Boy, am I struggling to find the right words today. Yeah, man. And so, yeah, even especially when it comes to that, if the parents belong to two different sides who historically have been in conflict, especially that can be a challenge. So, there you go. That's another one. Yeah. So, in the end, to sum up, um, why many marriages today fall apart anyway, because my example, my instance isn't very, this happened a long time ago, and yeah, but today in this time, of course, why marriages fall apart, I think I already talked about it. Infidelity is a strong reason, a really big reason, I believe, today, and also the materialist nature of many people's lives, and sometimes maybe because let's face it, let's I know women. There are marriages where a wife earns more than her husband, but it's not very common. There, in the majority of marriages, the husband, you know, is the main number one earner and provider because it is so. There are also discriminations. We know all that about against women even today in working life, and yeah, it is a little harder for them to really get to the top. So let's say the husband has been very successful, earning a lot, but suddenly something happens, some kind of he fucks up, right? And he's no longer really that rich or successful. And yeah, so I feel that many women today marry for because it is important, I think, for women especially to marry good, as they say, to marry rich, to marry to a successful and wealthy, well, wealthy enough guy anyway. There are still women who don't really pay much importance to that. They are idealistic and love is number one, but it is not that common as it was 20, 30 years ago, probably. I would say so, yeah. Because of the situation, also, I think after the crisis in 2008, Wall Street crash, this has changed and it is really bad. It is bad and sad, but that's the way it is. Too many people now think of material stuff, providing themselves and eventually their offspring. And when the man cannot longer really provide like before, that also actually, I think, causes some marriages to plummet and crash, burnout. Because suddenly the man feels, I'm inadequate, I'm no longer the main provider, I'm not the man anymore. Now my wife is the man in the house, and he feels, yeah, inadequate, as I said, inferior even in a way, and that can cause also arguments and bitterness, and which spills then into what to real conflicts like between them, and then that's all. And she also, woman doesn't maybe look the husband with the same kind of respect anymore, for sure, many instances, I believe. He's no longer what he used to be now. Why should I stay married to him? Like just because he's the father of my children. Like, and yeah, actually, as I said, it's sad, but that's how it goes. People. So be realistic. That's my advice. Accept that the person you are about to marry or have married has flaws, but be ready, be really, you know, open hearted and forgiving, unless, of course, the one of you, I mean, the person you're marrying is really proves to be very difficult. Like egomaniacs, also, they are not good marriage material, obviously, because an egomaniac will always put himself at number one above everything, even his wife and kids and family, parents, whatever, brothers, sisters. He or she are always number one in their own mind. To themselves, they are number one, all right. So, egomania also, yeah, definitely destroys marriages, and but sometimes, sadly, one of the other part in the marriage doesn't really know, maybe. So I've seen like videos about these clips where people talk how to, about this, how to recognize an egomaniac before you really get serious with him or her. Like when you are just started dating, yeah, of course. But I'm not going to talk about that now because that would make this video like 30 minutes long. So I think I made my points. Thank you. And be wise, all right? Be wise and be kind.